G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Tell you what guys, I'm getting sick and tired of doing that intro. Don't worry, I don't mean like generally I'm getting sick and tired of it. That's not true. The intro is amazing and is probably the best part of the show, let's be honest. That's what people are listening for. The intro, once the intro's done, that's it. Everyone turns off. The problem is I'm having massive amounts of difficulty at the moment being able to record and publish episodes for the podcast. And if you've noticed there's been a drop-off in the amount of content I've been putting out, you would be correct. There has been a drop-off, but it certainly isn't because I've lost the motivation to do this or the inspiration. That's not true at all. I just am encountering a lot of barriers to me being able to produce a recording that I'm happy with and then to be able to publish it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Excuse me, which wasn't the original plan. So what I'm going to do first, because okay, come on Elliot, stay on a linear path. So I originally wanted to talk about something positive and really, something worth celebrating on this episode. And that is that last week I was awarded the Young Alumni of the Year at the University of Newcastle. If you've got me on social media, you would have seen a bit about it. Great honour. And I'm so thrilled that lived experience is not only being acknowledged for its value, but celebrated as well. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, but I just can't get it out. I just keep repeating over and over again. It's never good enough. Just deleting things, recording again, deleting. It's an absolute nightmare. Like, this is nothing new. This happens every now and then. But this has now been happening every day consistently for probably a month now. For a month, every day, I sit down and I just try again to record and be happy enough with it and to publish it so I can release a little bit of the pressure that is building every time I do a draft recording, delete it and start again. So when I say I'm sick of doing the intro, I'm sick of doing it like 50 times every day as I'm trying to get one good recording and then not coming up with anything anyway. So that's what I mean. Because it's so difficult at the moment for me to get anything out and it's doing my head in. I'm going insane, which is ironic. I get the irony. But seriously, it's driving me up the wall because I do put a lot of pressure on myself when it comes to this show because, like I said, the motivation and inspiration is well and truly still there. It's as high as it's ever been. And I think that's almost part of the problem because I'm trying to be too perfect maybe in what I'm producing. And that's never been what the show's all about, I take pride in the fact that this show has, some rough edges to it because, in my opinion, that better represents the material and the content I'm trying to cover anyway. My whole life is full of rough edges. So, it makes sense that the podcast would be a bit like that as well. And that's part of my guarantee to you, which is that it's the most honest, genuine, real and fair income podcast on all of the internet. So that's part of the deal. But I think I've lost control when it comes to being able to control my expectations around this sort of stuff. And as a result of trying to aim for some sort of perfection, what I'm ending up with is nothing recorded, and that's a hell of a lot worse than me stumbling over a word or two, surely. But at the same time, it's almost like there's this compulsion that whenever I make this slight little mistake, that I have to delete the recording and start again. And I don't even know if these little mistakes are actually real, what I'm referring to, I guess, is me stumbling over words and not being clear or as clear as I'd like to be. But I don't know if that's actually true because, I've asked this question at work before. I've said it on here as well, that sometimes when I'm at work and my meds are sort of coming on at once, I feel as though I'm not able to talk as clearly as normal. And I've asked people, have you noticed anything? Have you noticed me not saying words, properly and not being able to get my sentences to flow? And everyone, unless they're just being nice, but everyone hasn't noticed. They don't notice. They're like, what are you talking about? You're fine. So it could well be the same sort of thing again, but whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that I just keep repeating myself over and over and over again, just trying to get something done. It's been like this for a month and it's really wearing me out, guys. It really is, because I've got such great material ready to go. It's not writer's block. I don't have writer's block. I was thinking that at work. I was on the forklift earlier. I was like, why is it that I'm not able to get these episodes recorded? What's the story? I thought about the writer's block thing. I was like, nah, it doesn't really apply, because I've got heaps of material and content, and it's all awesome stuff that you'd only find on this podcast. I just need to be able to record it and get it out to you so you can listen. Far out. This has always been a difficult process. It's never been easy doing these episodes because of that inner critic that's constantly in my ear, telling me that whatever I'm doing is not good enough. But most of the time I'm able to push past that and eventually get something out. It may take a few times, a few goes, but usually I get there. But unfortunately, lately, I haven't been able to get it done. Maybe this recording, I don't know. This recording, so far we're going for 6 minutes. Most of them tonight I probably would have stopped and deleted by now. Oh, there was a little slip up. Come on, Elliot, speak clearly. See, pressure's on. This could be the episode. One other thing too, before I continue, if I do repeat things on this episode, if I repeat stuff I've already said, say at the start of the episode, and I've forgotten and I've repeated it again, please just ignore that part, because like I said, I've done so many drafts and so many run-throughs and recordings that I can't remember what I've said. Everything's just a blur. It's just all coming out. So if I do repeat myself, I'm sorry. But I guess that's part of the lived experience, isn't it? That's part of the genuine, honest, fair income, guarantee that I have for this show, is that it looks at mental health in all its glory, and also in the parts that maybe aren't as celebrated for good reason. And part of that could be me repeating myself. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. So I wanted to do, the alumni episode, but that's going to have to wait. So I'm doing this one instead. Now, I want to try and describe what's going on, because it is clear that this is, for the most part, anxiety driven. Yes, there's the expectations I've put on myself in the show, for sure. And there's anxiety that's associated with that. And that's definitely playing a role. Definitely. There's no two ways about that. But what I'm finding, which is interesting but also really not helpful, is that when I'm recording at the moment, it's like I'm speaking in front of a live audience. Now, I've done plenty of speaking engagements in front of live audiences. I've been lucky enough to present to lots of schools and community groups, and it's not easy either. That's also a very difficult process that hasn't gotten easier over the years. But at the same time, I'm able to do it, and I think I do a decent job. But when I record for the podcast at the moment, it's like I've got this audience in front of me. So there's this pressure, this extra, this nervousness I'm getting because I'm imagining myself, even though I'm trying not to, the fact that I'm in front of, 150 people and they're all looking at me wanting to hear what I'm about to say. And that is quite anxiety provoking, which, a little bit of anxiety is all right because it keeps you on your toes, and nerves are important because it means you're doing something that's significant to you. But at the same time, I don't think it's logical or rational that I'd be sitting here recording an episode for the podcast and feeling as though I'm doing it in front of a packed house. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. I'm doing it in front of my laptop, like what's going on there? So I need to find a way to sort of unravel that image that I'm getting every time I sit down and record, because I get really nervous. And as a result, maybe I do make a mistake here or there, or the nerves and the anxiety gives me this perception that I'm making these mistakes. And then as a result, I delete it because I'm embarrassed. All these people listening must think I'm just hopeless and are negatively appraising me and judging me. So I better start again. That's not helpful because there's no audience in front of me. And all it's doing, instead of, sharpening my focus and making me produce the best material I can, it's actually drowning me under the waves, the ocean of expectations and anxiety, and I'm not able to get anything published. And that's worse because me not getting things published makes me very agitated and frustrated and angry because the podcast, this is again to do with the expectations I suppose I have on it. But, the potty to me is like, it's my way out of my life that I don't particularly enjoy at the moment. It's through the podcast and who I'm meeting through the potty and the work that I'm doing in mental health. That's what's going to get me, to the places I want to be. So the podcast is important and I need it to be successful, or at least as successful as possible, or at least doing the right things for it to be successful. I can't just force people to listen, but I do have control over, I guess, the way I approach it and how I approach it and the episodes that I am able to get across the line. So when I'm not publishing episodes, it you know me, I spiral so quickly to all of a sudden, I'm not worthy, I'm inadequate, I'll never get anywhere, I'm hopeless, just give up now, and all those thoughts just come flooding in because that's the thing. When I'm anxious, I think this probably goes for everybody, but when I'm anxious, that fuels a lot of those negative constructs and concepts in my mind. Let's say the inner critic is the big one. So when I'm anxious about these recordings, the inner critic gets louder and louder, and it's hard not to listen when the inner critic is so certain that whatever I'm doing is rubbish. So the anxiety amplifies that negativity, and I haven't been able to get the anxiety dialed down enough where it doesn't fuel the inner critic to a level that makes me keep deleting things over and over and over again. So that's the problem I've got. I've got heaps of material. I've got great content coming. There is no shortage of that at all, but I'm having huge difficulties being able to record episodes for the show. And as I said, this has been going on for the best part of a month. Every day I sit down and I just try to get across the line, and I just have not been able to do it. Although this episode has now gone 13 minutes, this could be the one. So very quickly, so with the anxiety stuff as well, like it's causing dry mouth real bad, which I get when I present in front of an audience, and now I'm getting it recording on the podcast right now, for example. So dry mouth's a big problem because then I feel as though I stumble over words and then I have to delete and start again. The whole cycle begins again. But yeah, this realization that the anxiety is mimicking the anxiety I get when I'm presenting for like the Black Dog Institute, that was pretty, that was a bit of a, light bulb moment. But now the key is to try and find a way to get around that. So I don't have this dry mouth. I don't have this perception that I'm not doing a very good job and that I should be deleting the recordings because they're all garbage. I need to get away from that somehow. But posting and publishing this recording, if we get to the finish line, definitely is going to help. So the reason I'm in my car, I don't know if I actually covered this off. The reason I'm in my car is because I'm trying again to get away from this idea that people are watching. So when I've recorded in my car in the past, it's been to get away from people potentially listening, and I'm doing the same thing now, at least that's what I'm trying. And it's sort of working. It is working a bit, but again, I don't want to have to always record in my car. I want to be comfortable enough to be able to do it back at home, like I have traditionally done it. In the car every now and then's okay, but not too much. So I need to figure out a way to get away from this idea or this feeling that I'm presenting in front of an audience when I'm not, and to get rid of the anxiety because it doesn't make sense. It's not rational or logical, and it needs to go away. But it's true that the more episodes or the days that I miss, episodes I miss and don't get published, the pressure builds and builds and builds. And then the inner critic is very happy with that and is able to then use that as, evidence of its own kind that I'm not worthy and not up to it and that I should just sort of give up. So, I want to stay away from that. So I've got to get away from all this anxiety so I can be freed up so I can record and publish instead of record, delete. Because then I'll feel so much happier about things because I'm actually able to get these episodes done. That's empowering. That's a huge weight off my shoulders and the pressure is released somewhat. There's always going to be pressure. Like I sort of alluded to earlier, there's always going to be pressure because I do take this mental health stuff very, very seriously. And I want to do a good job because lived experience, whether it's mine or whether it's someone else's, but, lived experience as a concept is so vital, I think, to, our communities moving forward. And I take on a big responsibility, I suppose, with the work that I'm doing to try and, be at the front of the pack, I guess, trying to create change in the community. So I take this stuff very seriously, but I do need to keep a lid on it a little bit because, there's no point me putting all these pressures and expectations on myself so much that no episode will ever get published again because no episode will ever meet the standards that I've set. Like, not publishing at all is worse than doing not a very good job on one or two episodes, like that's the commitment that I've given to you guys, that this is going to be the most fair income, legitimate, honest, real account of mental health that there is on all the internet. That's the guarantee, and I stand by that. And for me to be able to, come through on my promise there, I need to be able to get these episodes published so you guys can listen and then we can really, create something moving on. So this episode today was not about, this was not the plan. The plan was to talk about the Alumni Award. But that will be the next episode because I'm thinking this one might almost be done, which means I reckon this is actually going to get published. I have no idea if I've repeated stuff, if I've left stuff out. I got no idea. Everything's just blending into one. But all I know is that my inner critic on this recording hasn't been strong enough to make me think that I need to press that delete button. So I don't know, maybe I should stop the episode now so it's done and I can get it published and maybe we can move on with our lives, or at least I can, and get on to some better episodes which are a bit more positive and a bit more motivating, and that is the Alumni Award, because I've got lots to talk about with that because it's my greatest achievement in my career so far, and I want to tell you all about how exciting it is to have won the award. So let's hope now that I don't press the delete button out of, just because I've been pressing it all night, that I press it again, because I think this recording is going to be enough. I think this is going to be enough and it's going to get across the line. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for getting through this episode. It's been quite difficult and it's been weeks in the making, I suppose, and this isn't even the one that I was planning on doing. So you should see how good that one is. But thank you for listening through this episode. It is a bit all over the shop. It's not very linear. I've sort of wrapped around in circles. I've got a bad feeling I've forgotten some important details, but really it doesn't matter because this is lived experience. I'm living it as we speak. I'm anxious. I've got the dry mouth. I'm worried I'm not speaking properly. I feel like I'm talking in front of a huge audience, excuse me. This is lived experience. It's not all pretty. In fact, a lot of it's not pretty, but this is as real as it gets. As I said, that's my commitment to you, and that is what this episode is all about. This is one of the ugly ones, but you got to have the ugly ones to be able to then produce the good, lovely, colourful, awesome ones. Anyway, that's enough yapping because I am in the car park at work. I don't know if I said that part. Who cares, even if I did or I didn't, doesn't matter at this point. But I think security's coming around because it's now like 2:30 in the morning. So I probably should get going home anyway, get to sleep and get this episode uploaded. Thank goodness. Thank you everybody for listening. I do appreciate it. The next episodes, well, now that I've got this one out of the way, I'm telling you, they're all just, it's when it rains, it pours. They're all coming, trust me. All right, I'll stop there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time here on the Dysregulated podcast.